Hello and welcome to the Behind the Stripes webcast. This is Tribune Sports Editor Joe Walljasper along with Tribune football beat writer Dave Matter. Dave, Missouri survives a serious scare from San Diego State, 27-24, a game that I think we pretty much all thought was over with about a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
Does that game raise some serious red flags for you about Missouri, or do you write it off as, one game they didn't take their opponent seriously enough and didn't play very well?
Probably a little bit of both. I think you have to really look at the things that didn't go well and try to make sure it doesn't happen again for Missouri. I did say that going into the season, I thought this would be the most competitive of Missouri's non-conference games. They always have that one every year where, whether it's 5 years ago when they'd probably lose one of these games, or whether the last couple of years where they just came out kind of flat on one side of the ball or both, they had a game that was closer than it should have been. It was Bowling Green a year ago. And obviously a few years ago, they lost to New Mexico. They had the Troy loss, obviously. So they're always have one of these games. And I think this one was, Missouri better hope this one was it, because Miami, Ohio, this coming Saturday. But I think you look at the offense right away. They were sluggish early on. They just didn't look like they were on the same page. Blaine Gabbert's throws were way off. Receivers were dropping balls. The running game in the second half didn't work at all. And then I think things got worse in the fourth quarter when not only was Gabbert missing on his throws, he was throwing interceptions. And they had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. And as Gary Pinkel said on Monday, you don't win many games doing that if you can ever even hope of winning a game. So it was not looking good. And then on defense, they gave up the 2 huge plays, otherwise played pretty well. And you can't allow a team with some offensive firepower to get a crease like that, and they did twice.
Yeah, I think the thing, fans kind of complain about the soft non-conference schedule, and but the players too, I think it's hard for, they don't really, I don't think they take these games quite as seriously either, no matter what they might say before the game itself.
Right.
I think, usually it's right in the middle of this string of games that everybody assumes are going to win, that they'll throw a clunker in there. I would be a little bit more surprised if they did twice in a row.
Right.
As far as whether it's a red flag for the season, I guess it maybe depends on what your expectations were for the season. If you thought this was another 8-win type season, then I'm not sure your mind has changed much. If you thought this was going to be something special, I don't think this is a special team from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I'd agree, just because I think it's just, not that it has a lot of huge flaws, but they're just not that great on either side of the ball yet to think that this is a team that can win 10 games and win a championship.
All right, one of the flaws that if you spend any time on message boards you've commented on or heard about, or your steam is coming out of your ears, is their lack of running game, whether it be their inability to run or their unwillingness to run. Let's address that. First of all, I guess discuss the way Missouri, this is another thing that makes people angry, but the way what they consider runs, which is including bubble screens into their running package, how they think they're dividing up the run and the pass versus how statistically it will be counted as
Missouri thinks it's a lot more balanced than it looks on the stat sheet than most fans, most anyone outside of their program would consider it. Those bubble screens, which are just little throws out in the flat to a slot receiver, most likely, they consider those runs because they're blocked like a run. They're thrown behind the line of scrimmage, so you can block downfield with those. Those are a really big part of Missouri's offense. It has been for the last couple of years. So they consider that a run, and that puts their numbers a little more even, a little more balanced, and there's not this huge weakness in the playbook that they don't have a very good running game. But I think what people, even if you accept that, you still look, well, why aren't the tailbacks getting more carries? They're doing a good job. The top 3 backs, Henry Josie, Kendall Lawrence, and Devin Moore, are all averaging, if you put their numbers together, about 6.5 yards a carry. That's really good. And they've been effective at times. They're just not getting a lot of carries. And in the second half the other night, they weren't doing much. But they had some exchange issues with Gabbert. The option where he keeps the ball, if he doesn't want to pitch it, is not working at all. So it's kind of a mess right now, mostly because it seems like they're not willing to really lean in that direction. And I think it has a lot to do with not having total faith in the guys back there, like they did with the Derek Washington, who they would give the ball 20 times a game to during his career. Now that he's gone, I'm not sure they're really that have a lot of confidence in the backs that they have.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that option play, because I think maybe that is the play that gets people angry more than any, because that is the one that just never seems to work.
Yeah.
We talked to Dave Joseph about that yesterday. Maybe give his explanation of he and Gary Pinkel's explanation of why they run it and how they run it.
Well, it is the one play in the playbook, or at least the one play that David Yost said. He may have been a little, not sharing everything with us, but it's the one play where the tailback is lined up next to the quarterback in the direction that he's going to go. So if he's on the right side, that option is the one running play where he can run to the right. And ideally, they want Blaine Gabbert to pitch the ball to him, almost just like a toss sweep, and get yards to the outside. Otherwise, Missouri's running plays, the running back runs to the opposite side that he's lined up on. They do the counter play like that. They run a stretch play. They do a few other things where he goes the opposite direction when he runs in motion. So this is the one same side running play is what they call it that they have. If Gabbert senses somebody on the outside that's going to blow up that running back, he'll keep the ball and try to run inside and get a few yards. Almost every time he's tried that this year, it has not worked. It just gets bottled up and ends up being either a loss or just a zero gain. So that frustrates fans, I think, when they see that. But the way Gary Pinkel explained it yesterday, he's almost always supposed to pitch it, unless if he's basically taking a 0 in favor of a -5, which what you would get if he pitches it back to the pitch man. So, I think they could probably come up with some more things there, but this is Missouri's offense.
I think with that said, you throw that play out, because here's the problem: they're not good enough offensively to just have this for the sake of throwing off their tendency to take a loss or to take a 0. That's number one. Number two, if everybody knows you're going to pitch it, then you're going to defend it to where you just make Gabbert run it.
Right.
He's fast in a straight line. He's not quick. He isn't going to make cuts. He's not going to ever be a good option quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, and the number three, you're exposing him to hits. I mean, if he gets hurt, your season is through.
Right.
So it doesn't really wash with me. I think you can use a two. They've occasionally done that where they've had two running backs at the same time. You can put one on his right, line another guy up to the left on the slot, and put him in motion. You saw Henry Josie get some nice runs out of that. I would do more of that as opposed to just running that option play, because really I don't think they're a good enough team to just give away down.
Sure, and the way David Yost explains it, they're constantly evaluating in the course of a game, okay, what are our 4 favorite running plays, and the coaches circle those, and we're going to stick with those. I can't imagine they're circling that play very often because it's just not working, so maybe they do scrap it. Maybe they're using it to set up some kind of fake option pass where he looks like he's going to do that and he drops back and finds somebody wide open. Who knows? They might have a real long view of this while we're kind of looking at this from a very narrow perspective. But when you're losing to San Diego State in the fourth quarter, you shouldn't be thinking too far ahead.
Correct. Now, what we didn't realize at the time, but we find out yesterday, is Aldon Smith has a broken bone, although he might quibble with that diagnosis, in his lower leg. Will miss at least this game, possibly a little bit more. What impact do you think that has on Missouri's chances?
Well, I think they really dodged a bullet with it because it's in his fibula, which is the non-weight-bearing bone, and it's at really a perfect location because it's not very close to the ankle, it's not very close to the knee, it's right in the middle. So otherwise, if it were any lower or any higher, this could be a really serious injury. That's what team trainers told me yesterday on Monday. So this is a place where he's basically just going to have to rest it, ice it a lot, and deal with some pain because it's probably not going to heal by the end of the year. He's just going to have to tolerate that for a while. They don't think it'll be any more structural damage than what there already is. The best news for Missouri is they're playing Miami of Ohio this weekend, who led the NCAA in sacks allowed a year ago. They gave up 58 sacks last season. This year they've already given up 9. So this is a team that doesn't protect its quarterback very well, or at least it hasn't last year and so far this year. And you'd like to think that Missouri has some good depth at defensive end. Brad Madison's going to get a start. I think we've all been impressed with him and how he's played this year. So dodged a bullet. They've got a bye next week, and then they open up with Colorado, a team that they've historically just really gotten after the quarterback. So if he has to miss that game or can only play half the snaps, I think they'll still probably be in pretty good shape.
Well, talking about Miami of Ohio, Missouri favored by 17.5 against them. Do you see this as another upset alert game, or do you think Missouri will have learned its lesson and will take them seriously enough
Yeah.
and have the guns to beat them big.
Just crunching some of the numbers of Miami's games this year, they're not a very explosive team. They don't have the veteran quarterback San Diego State did. They don't have the firepower that we saw that San Diego State has shown in flashes at times. So I just don't see them being able to score enough points on Missouri's defense, which has played pretty well this year outside of those two big runs they gave up, to really make this that close. They played Florida tough. They really gave Florida some fits defensively, but still didn't move the ball very well. And they do have a good run defense, but against Missouri, is that really that big of a factor? They're going to throw the ball and at least try to throw the ball all day long anyway. Only one quarterback in the country has attempted as many passes as Blaine Gabbert, and I don't expect that formula to change
unless you
anytime
subtract the bubble screens.
If you subtract the bubble screens, then he's probably fourth or fifth in the country in pass attempts. So I don't see this being as big as a threat, and the wake-up call from San Diego State probably will have them a little bit more on alert also.
All right, lastly, some viewer mail.
Got a couple questions here. This is from Asif Lakhani, sorry if I mispronounced that, from Columbia. How did the team and the coaches feel about fans walking out after Gabbert's second interception on Saturday? Well, no one was really asked that on Monday. I will say that during his radio show Monday night, Gary Pinkel noted that he thought it was ridiculous, was his word, that they showed the weather radar up on the video board. He thought that was giving fans an incentive to leave the stadium before the game was over. And I think he was saying a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but he did say he had a meeting with the athletic department about putting the weather radar up on the video board. The folks that made that decision, I've been told it was the MU Police Department's decision to put that up there.
That's kind of a safety issue.
Doing a service to the people at the game that had a long ride home. I think Gary was thinking more about losing some crowd support there. Maybe if the game wasn't so close, wouldn't be worried about fans leaving early. But I do think he was kind of kidding, but probably a little bit of truth to it also. So that's all I heard about that. And then another question, this is by Sports by Wheezy.
I'm going to address that last question first.
Sure.
I get kind of tired of this whole discussion about what is or is not a good fan, like it's some sort of competition. You paid your money. You want to go. You want to leave.
Exactly.
Do what you want to do.
I agree.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead to Wheezy.
Wheezy wants to know, can we expect Wes Kemp to be more involved in the offense, or has he been passed on the depth chart? Well, he was out there all the time on Saturday. I think he was targeted one time on 51 passes, didn't catch a pass. It's not a matter of him not being on the field. The more this offense evolves, I think Wes Kemp is kind of becoming a blocking tight end, like you see in the NFL, a guy that doesn't catch a pass, but he's split out wide, and he's there to basically block. And I don't know if it's a matter of him not getting open. I don't think he's very high on the progressions when Gabbert is scanning the field looking for a receiver. He's had some opportunities. He had a big drop against Illinois. He caught a few passes in that game. So he's out there. I just don't think the priority for him is to get him really that involved in catching passes. He helps out with the blocking more than anything else.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition. Next week we will talk about the Miami of Ohio game and look ahead to a relaxing bye week for Dave and Big 12 conference season starting.